The metal keys jingled in Brent Harmon's rough hands as he secured the double locks on his construction company's office door. His weathered fingers, marked by decades of calluses and small scars, moved with practiced efficiency. The autumn air carried the scent of fresh sawdust from the day's work, mixing with the metallic tang of machinery that defined his livelihood. "Boss, you need anything else before I head out?" Gilberto Dunn's voice called from the parking lot. The man stood beside his pickup truck, tool belt slung over his shoulder. "No, Gil. Get home to Maria. Those kitchen cabinets won't install themselves tomorrow," Brent replied, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to commanding job sites. Gilberto nodded, a gesture weighted with 2 decades of shared history. He'd been there when Harmon Construction was nothing more than a borrowed truck and desperate determination. They'd started as equals, 2 skilled laborers with dreams bigger than their bank accounts. Now, Gilberto served as site foreman, managing crews across multiple projects while Brent handled the broader business operations. 20 years, eh? Gilberto mused, leaning against his truck. Remember that first renovation job? The Murphy house? Brent's lips curved into a rare smile. Old Lady Murphy and her impossible demands wanted us to match 100-year-old crown molding with modern materials. And we did it, Gilberto said proudly. That job put us on the map. Because we didn't cut corners, Brent responded, his tone hardening with conviction. Never have, never will. The conversation shifted to their current projects, a commercial renovation downtown and a government contract for low-income housing repairs. They learned to diversify after the 2008 crash nearly bankrupted them. Brent remembered those dark days vividly, sitting at his kitchen table at 3 in the morning, calculating and recalculating numbers until they made sense, determined not to lay off a single worker. "Did Ray get those quarterly projections finished?" Gilberto asked, referring to their financial advisor. "Coming tomorrow morning. Says we're tracking ahead of schedule on the Wilson project. Should have enough cushion for bonuses this Christmas." Gilberto's face brightened. "The crews will appreciate that. They've been pushing hard since we landed the government contract. They earn every cent," Brent stated firmly. He believed in rewarding loyalty and hard work, values his Uncle Stephen had instilled in him during his apprenticeship years. As Gilberto drove away, Brent remained in the parking lot, surveying the modest office building that housed his company. The sign above the door read Harmon Construction in simple block letters, no fancy logo or corporate branding. The building itself was a testament to their work. They'd renovated it themselves, transforming a decrepit warehouse into a functional workspace. His phone buzzed with a text from Melody. "Dinner's in the oven. Don't work too late." 26 years of marriage condensed into a routine exchange. He didn't reply immediately, instead pulling up his email to check on a bid proposal. The McNamara project could push their revenue past 8 figures for the first time, a milestone that would secure his children's future. Inside his truck, Brent found comfort in the familiar smell of leather and coffee. The vehicle's interior showed signs of its daily use. Construction documents scattered across the passenger seat, a tablet loaded with blueprints, and a hard hat perched on the dashboard. He'd upgraded from his old pickup to this newer model last year, a concession to his position as company owner, though he still preferred getting his hands dirty on job sites. The drive home gave him time to reflect on his journey. At 48, he'd built something substantial from nothing. The memory of his parents' fatal car crash when he was 16 remained a driving force, a harsh lesson in life's uncertainties that fueled his relentless pursuit of security. His Uncle Stephen had saved him from foster care, taking him in and teaching him the carpenter's trade. "A man's worth is in his work," Stephen used to say, guiding Brent's hands as they shaped wood into useful things. Those early lessons in craftsmanship had evolved into a business philosophy. Do things right the first time, stand behind your work, and never compromise on quality. The house came into view, a 2-story colonial he'd bought as a fixer-upper 15 years ago. He'd renovated it room by room, often working weekends while Melody picked up extra nursing shifts to cover the mortgage. The twins had been in middle school then, complaining about the constant construction noise, but eagerly helping with simple tasks. Inside, the aroma of pot roast filled the air. Melody stood at the kitchen island, sorting through mail. Her nurse's scrubs had been replaced with comfortable clothes, her dark hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. You missed Jennifer's call, she said without looking up. She wants to know if you can help with her apartment search next weekend. Pre-med housing isn't cheap, Brent replied, washing his hands at the kitchen sink. Tell her I'll cover the security deposit. She wants your opinion on the neighborhoods, not just your money. Melody's tone carried a hint of reproach. Brent dried his hands. I'll call her back after dinner. Any word from Jason? His internship at Ray's firm is going well. He's learning about construction bonds and contract law. Pride mixed with concern as Brent considered his son's career path. Jason had inherited his drive, but preferred spreadsheets to power tools. Still, the boy needed to understand both sides of the business if he was going to take over someday. Ray says he's got a good head for numbers, Brent commented, serving himself a plate. Better than I ever had. Melody joined him at the table, her own plate modestly portioned. Your sister-in-law called too. Nicole's planning something for the family reunion next month. She's still going through with that? Thought the divorce would have changed her plans. She says it's more important now than ever to bring the family together. Melody paused, pushing food around her plate. She wants everyone to do DNA tests. Says it'll be fun to trace our ancestry. Brent grunted noncommittally, focused on his meal. Family genetics held little interest for him. Family was built through actions and choices, not blood. He'd learned that from Uncle Stephen. The conversation drifted to work matters. Melody shared stories from the free clinic where she volunteered, speaking animatedly about Dr. Gordon York's efforts to expand their services. Brent listened with half an ear, his mind on tomorrow's meeting with the zoning board. The clinic needs updating, Melody was saying. The examination rooms barely meet code. Send me the requirements, Brent replied. I'll have Gil take a look next week. Maybe we can work something out. Melody's face softened. You don't have to. It's tax deductible, he cut in, his tone businesslike. Besides, it's good PR for the company. After dinner, Brent retreated to his home office, a space that mirrored his workplace in its functionality. The walls displayed his contractor's licenses and major project photos, while blueprints and material samples covered the desk. He called Jennifer, discussing apartment options in her university's area. His daughter's voice carried the same determined focus he recognized in himself. Dad, I found a place near the hospital. It's perfect for my clinical rotations next year. Send me the details. I'll have Ray run a background check on the property manager. Dad, Jennifer protested. I can handle this myself. Trust your old man on this one, he insisted. I've seen too many rental scams. The conversation turned to her studies, and Brent felt the familiar surge of pride. Jennifer had inherited his work ethic, maintaining top grades while volunteering at the free clinic. Later, in bed, Brent reviewed emails on his tablet while Melody read beside him. The silence between them felt comfortable, worn smooth by years of shared routine. He noticed her glancing at her phone more frequently than usual but attributed it to work concerns. Nicole's really excited about this DNA thing, Melody mentioned casually. She already ordered the kits. Waste of money, Brent muttered, still focused on his emails. But if it makes her happy after the divorce. He missed the slight tension in Melody's shoulders, the way her fingers gripped her book too tightly. 20 years of 60-hour workweeks had taught him to focus on the essential details: measurements, costs, deadlines. Personal matters often slipped past his notice, categorized as non-urgent in his contractor's mindset. The bedside lamp clicked off, plunging the room into darkness. Brent set his tablet aside, his mind already mapping out tomorrow's tasks. He'd built his life like he built his projects, with careful planning, quality materials, and unwavering attention to structural integrity. But even the strongest foundations can hide fatal flaws, waiting years or decades to reveal themselves. As Brent drifted off to sleep, he remained unaware that his life's carefully constructed framework was about to be tested in ways no building code could anticipate. Chapter 2. Hidden Currents. The State University campus sprawled before Brent as he navigated his truck through the visitor parking area. Jason had insisted on meeting for lunch between classes, a rare request from his usually independent son. The boy, young man now, waited outside the business school building, dressed in clothes that reminded Brent more of Ray Shepard than himself. Looking sharp, son, Brent commented as Jason climbed into the truck. Ray's influence showing already? Jason adjusted his tie self-consciously. The firm has a dress code. Besides, you're the one who always says presentation matters in business. True enough, Brent conceded, pulling into traffic. Though I prefer letting our work speak for itself. They headed to a local steakhouse, the kind of place Brent reserved for client meetings and special occasions. Jason's internship at Ray's financial firm marked a significant step toward his future role in Harmon Construction. How's your sister managing med school? Brent asked as they settled into their booth. Stressed but handling it, Jason replied, studying the menu. She's got mom's determination. The waiter approached, and Brent ordered with decisive efficiency. Ribeye, medium rare, with minimal additions. Jason followed suit, matching his father's straightforward style. Ray mentioned you've been studying sustainable building practices, Brent said once they were alone again. Jason's eyes lit up. There's huge potential there, Dad. Green building certificates can increase property values by 15 to 20%. Plus, government contracts often require environmental compliance now. Cost versus benefit? Brent challenged, testing his son's business acumen. Initial investment is higher, but long-term returns offset it. I've been running the numbers. Jason pulled out his tablet, displaying spreadsheets and market analyses. We could start small, maybe with the Thompson development? Brent studied the figures, pride warring with practical concerns. You've done your homework. But remember, son, new ventures need solid foundations. One bad project can undo years of reputation building. I know, Dad. That's why I'm learning everything I can from Ray. Understanding the financial side is crucial. Their stakes arrived, and conversation shifted to family matters. Jason mentioned the upcoming reunion, his tone carefully neutral. Aunt Nicole's going all out with this DNA test idea, he said, cutting into his steak. Mom seems weird about it, though. Brent glanced up sharply. Weird how? Just tense whenever it comes up. Probably stress from work. The free clinic's been busy lately. The mention of the clinic reminded Brent of Melody's increasing involvement there. Dr. Gordon York relied heavily on her nursing expertise, especially with difficult cases. Your mother's always been dedicated to her patients, Brent said, his tone measured. Sometimes too dedicated. Jason nodded absently, his attention drawn to his phone. A text message brought a slight frown to his face. Everything all right? Brent asked, noting the change in his son's expression. Yeah, just Jennifer. She's dealing with some drama at the free clinic. Apparently, one of Dr. York's former patients has been causing problems. Brent made a mental note to discuss this with Melody later. He didn't like the idea of his daughter volunteering somewhere with potentially dangerous situations. After lunch, driving Jason back to campus, Brent found himself studying his son's profile. The boy had his mother's features more than his own, something that had never bothered him before. Dad, Jason's voice broke into his thoughts. You okay? Just thinking about the business, Brent replied smoothly. Your ideas about sustainable building, draw up a proper proposal. We'll discuss it at the next board meeting. Jason's face brightened. Really? I mean, yes, sir. I'll have it ready. Dropping his son off, Brent watched him join a group of classmates, all similarly dressed in business attire. The scene stirred something in his memory. Melody, 26 years ago, in her waitress uniform at the diner where they'd met. He'd stopped there every morning before work, ordering the same breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, black coffee. Melody had memorized his order by the second week, having it ready before he sat down. Her friend Sonia worked there too, playing matchmaker with unsubtle hints and deliberately arranged schedules. She's putting herself through nursing school, Sonia had told him. Works harder than anyone I know. The memory shifted to their wedding day. Melody, radiant in a simple dress, her sister Nicole fussing with the veil. They kept it small, immediate family and close friends only. Ray had been his best man, Gilberto one of his groomsmen. His phone buzzed, interrupting the reminiscence. A text from Ray. Need to discuss Q3 projections. Free for dinner? Brent typed a quick affirmative, then opened his email to check the day's project updates. Construction work demanded constant attention to detail. One overlooked element could compromise an entire structure. The afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and site inspections. At one project, Brent rolled up his sleeves and helped the crew install support beams, earning appreciative nods from the workers. He'd never been the kind of boss who stayed in the office. Like old times, eh? Gilberto commented, watching Brent check the beam alignment. Remember when it was just us two doing all the heavy lifting? Better equipment now, Brent grunted, making a minute adjustment. But the principles haven't changed. Get it right the first time. Evening found him at a quiet bar with Ray, reviewing financial documents over plates of bar food. Ray Shepard's precise appearance contrasted sharply with Brent's work clothes, but their friendship transcended such superficial differences. Jason's doing well, Ray reported, spreading out quarterly reports. He has good instincts for risk assessment. Takes after his mother there, Brent remarked. She always was better at planning ahead. Ray's expression flickered briefly. Speaking of planning, have you considered succession strategies? Jason's showing real promise, but there's a lot to consider. One step at a time, Brent replied firmly. Let him learn the business properly first. They discussed profit margins and expansion possibilities, the conversation occasionally drifting to personal matters. Ray mentioned his recent divorce, the bitterness in his voice warning Brent away from the topic. How's Melody? Ray asked, changing the subject. Still working at the free clinic? More hours than ever, Brent confirmed. Says they're understaffed. Must keep her busy. Haven't seen her at the last few company functions. Brent frowned slightly, realizing he hadn't noticed this pattern. Work consumed so much of his attention that home life often felt like background noise. Important but not urgent, to use his project management terms. The drive home gave him time to think about Ray's observations. Melody had grown more independent over the years, building her own life around her nursing career and volunteer work. He'd always supported this, seeing it as a sign of their successful partnership. The house was dark when he arrived home. A note on the kitchen counter informed him that Melody was working a night shift at the clinic. He heated leftover pot roast, eating alone in the quiet kitchen. Upstairs, preparing for bed, Brent noticed small changes he'd overlooked. Melody's dresser held fewer personal items, her closet seemed less full. He attributed it to her donating old clothes. She'd mentioned something about a charity drive at the clinic. His phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Dad, can you look over my scholarship applications this weekend? Send them over, he replied. I'll review them tomorrow. The exchange reminded him of his promise to himself. His children would never struggle financially as he had. Contract, project, 60-hour weeks served that purpose. The thought of Jason and Jennifer starting their careers without the burden of student loans made the sacrifices worthwhile. Sleep came easily to Brent, as it always did. Years of physical labor had taught him to rest when possible, conserving energy for the challenges ahead. He didn't dream of the changes brewing beneath the surface of his carefully constructed life. Chapter 3. The Revelation. The family reunion transformed the Harmons' backyard into a showcase of their success. Tables laden with food stretched across the patio Brent had built himself, while conversations hummed among relatives and close friends gathered on the carefully maintained lawn. Gilberto and Maria arrived early, bringing their famous enchiladas and easy companionship. Their presence felt natural. They'd shared too many milestones to be considered anything less than family. The DNA test results came today, Nicole announced, waving white envelopes like victory flags. Her recent divorce seemed forgotten in the excitement of playing host. Everyone grab yours. Brent accepted his envelope with minimal interest, more focused on the grill where he was cooking steaks to precise temperatures. He noticed Melody hanging back, engaged in intense conversation with her sister near the garden shed. Come on, Dad, Jennifer called, already tearing into her envelope. Let's see if you've got any interesting ancestors. My ancestors were carpenters and builders, Brent replied, flipping a steak. That's all I need to know. Jason joined them, his internship clothes replaced by casual wear. Could be some surprises in there. My genetics professor says these tests reveal all sorts of unexpected connections. The word unexpected drew Brent's attention to Melody's reaction. His wife stood frozen, her envelope unopened, watching their children with an expression he'd never seen before. Well, this is interesting, Jason said, studying his results on his phone. Apparently, I'm 25% Irish. Dad, what does yours say? Brent set down his grilling tongs and opened his envelope, more to satisfy his children's curiosity than any personal interest. The numbers and percentages meant little to him until he noticed Jason comparing their results. That's weird. Jason frowned, looking between their papers. Dad, according to this, there must be some mistake, Jennifer interrupted, her medical training evident in her analytical approach. These relationship statistics can't be right. The background noise of the party faded as Brent focused on the documents. The scientific terminology meant little to him, but one fact stood out with brutal clarity. According to the DNA results, neither of his children shared his genetic profile. His head snapped up, eyes locking onto Melody. She stood pale and rigid, Nicole's supportive hand on her arm. The look they shared told him everything he needed to know. Everyone inside, he commanded, his voice carrying the same authority he used on construction sites. Except you. He pointed at Melody, and you, at Nicole. The party guests, sensing the tension, quickly made themselves scarce. Gilberto herded people toward their cars with diplomatic efficiency, while Maria guided the twins into the house despite their protests. In the emptying backyard, Brent stood with the DNA results crushed in his fist. 25 years, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. 25 years of marriage, and this is how I find out? Brent, I can explain, Melody began, but her sister's sharp intake of breath stopped her. Explain what? Brent's words cut like steel. That my children aren't mine? That sacrifice, 60-hour week, missed holiday, was for someone else's kids? They're your children in every way that matters, Melody pleaded. You raised them, loved them. Don't. The single word carried the weight of a sledgehammer. Don't try to justify this. Who is he? The silence stretched until Nicole spoke, her voice barely audible. Owen Richmond. The name hit Brent like a physical blow. Owen Richmond, the man who'd supposedly died in a boating accident 23 years ago. The pieces clicked into place with devastating precision. He didn't die, did he? Brent turned to Nicole. You knew. All this time you knew? I only found out after. Nicole's voice trailed off as Brent's expression hardened. After what? He demanded. After he got clean, Melody whispered. Dr. York helped him through rehabilitation. He's been sober for 20 years. The mention of Dr. York, the same Dr. Melody worked with at the free clinic, added another layer of betrayal. How many people had known? How many had watched him build his life on a foundation of lies? Get out, Brent said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Both of you. Now. The children, Melody started, are adults who can make their own choices, Brent cut her off. But you're done here. Pack what you need and go. Inside the house, they could hear Jennifer's muffled sobs and Jason's angry voice demanding explanations. The family Brent had spent his life building was crumbling like a house with compromised supports. Melody moved toward the house, but Brent blocked her path. I'll tell them myself. You've done enough damage. As Melody and Nicole walked to their cars, Brent stood in his backyard, surrounded by the remnants of the party. The half-cooked steaks on the grill had burned to charcoal, a fitting metaphor for the life he thought he'd built. The revelation of Owen Richmond's survival and connection to his family would unleash consequences that would ripple through their community. But for now, Brent focused on the immediate structural damage to his life's foundation. Like any master builder, he knew that before reconstruction could begin, the full extent of the damage had to be assessed. Ray arrived within an hour of receiving Brent's terse text. He found his friend in the home office, methodically going through financial records. I need you to trace Penny, Brent instructed, his voice stripped of emotion. Account, transaction. Find out what else she's been hiding. Brent, Ray started, concern evident in his tone. This isn't about revenge, Brent cut him off. This is about integrity. Everything I've built was based on a lie. I need to know how deep it goes. As night fell, Brent sat alone in his office. The DNA test results spread across his desk like architectural plans gone wrong. 20 years of construction work had taught him that sometimes the only way forward was to tear everything down to the foundation and start over. But first, he would discover exactly how many people had helped build this elaborate deception. And like the unforgiving foreman he'd always been, he would hold each one accountable for their part in the structural failure of his life. Chapter 4. Ripples of Deception. The Harmon construction office buzzed with tension in the weeks following the DNA test revelation. Workers spoke in hushed tones, their conversations dying whenever Brent passed by. His heavy footsteps echoed through the hallways as he made his way to the conference room where Ray Shepard waited with stacks of financial records. "Talk to me," Brent demanded, closing the door behind him. Ray spread several documents across the table. "I've traced a pattern of withdrawals from the joint accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. Started about 20 years ago." "Show me." "Here." Ray pointed to a highlighted series of transactions. 200 here, 500 there. Always under 1,000, always going to different accounts. She was smart about it. Brent's jaw tightened. "How much total?" "Roughly 300,000 over 20 years. The number hung in the air between them. Brent remembered all the extra jobs he'd taken, the weekends sacrificed, believing he was building a future for his family. "I want those accounts frozen," he ordered. "All of them." "Already done," Ray confirmed. "But Brent, there's more. Some of these transfers coincide with major project bids. Times when we were competing against other contractors." A knock interrupted them. Gilberto entered, his expression grim. "Boss, you need to hear this. The crew at the Wilson project, they're saying Kenny Richards has been asking questions, trying to get details about our bidding process." Brent's fist came down on the table. "Kenny Richards? That second-rate contractor who keeps underbidding us." "Same one," Gilberto nodded. "Word is he's been working with someone bigger. A real estate developer." The pieces began falling into place. Brent turned to Ray. "Pull everything we have on Richards construction. Bid histories, project timelines, all of it." "Already on it," Ray replied, pulling up files on his tablet. Their sudden success in the last few years didn't add up. Now we know why. A text message lit up Brent's phone. "Jennifer. Dad, can we talk?" "It's about Jason." "What about your brother?" he typed back. "He's been meeting someone. A real estate developer. Says he's offering him an internship." Brent's grip tightened on the phone until his knuckles whitened. "Where is he now?" "At the university library, working on his sustainable building proposal." "Dad." He's confused. "We both are." "Stay focused on your studies," Brent replied. "I'll handle this." Gilberto watched his boss with concern. "What do you need from us?" "Information," Brent growled. "Everything you can get. This isn't just about Melody anymore. This is about my company, my reputation, my children." Ray cleared his throat. "There's someone else we should talk to. Dr. York from the free clinic. The one who helped Richmond get clean?" Brent's voice dripped with contempt. "He might know things. Professional confidentiality only goes so far when there's potential criminal activity involved." Brent stood, his decision made. "Set up a meeting. But first, I want to talk to Jennifer in person." The drive to Jennifer's university campus gave him time to think. The betrayal had spread like rot through the framework of his life, compromising everything he'd built. But like any experienced contractor, he knew how to identify and isolate structural damage. He found Jennifer in the medical library, surrounded by textbooks and laptops. Her face, so much like her mother's, showed the strain of recent weeks. "Tell me about Jason," he demanded without preamble. Jennifer glanced around the quiet library before responding in a low voice. "He met Owen Richmond at a business networking event. Didn't realize who he was at first. Richmond started talking about sustainable development, green building practices, all the things Jason's interested in. And now he's torn. Richmond's offering him a position at his firm, saying he can learn both real estate and construction. Jason thinks he can bridge the gap, make things right somehow." Brent's expression hardened. "There is no making this right." "Dad," Jennifer hesitated. "What are you going to do?" "Protect what's mine. Focus on your studies. Let me handle your brother." As he turned to leave, Jennifer caught his arm. "There's something else. Mom's been trying to reach us. She says she can explain everything." "There's nothing to explain," Brent cut her off. 25 years of lies don't get explained away. Back at the office, He found Ray and Gilberto deep in conversation with a man he didn't recognize. "Boss, this is Clay Babcock," Gilberto introduced. "He's a private investigator recommended by your lawyer." Clay Babcock wore a suit that had seen better days, but his eyes were sharp and assessing. "Mr. Harmon, I understand you need information about Owen Richmond. Everything. His business dealings, his connections, his weaknesses. I want to know how deep this betrayal goes." "Investigation's already started," Clay replied. "Preliminary findings suggest Richmond's real estate empire isn't as clean as it appears. He's got a pattern of using personal relationships for business advantage." "Explain." "He targets specific people, usually women in positions to help him. Bank managers' wives, zoning official spouses. Gets close to them, then uses the information or influence to benefit his projects." Brent's expression darkened. "And Melody? Was she just another target?" "That's older history. Goes back to college, before his addiction problems. But the pattern's the same. He maintains connections he can use later." The office phone rang, Dr. York's office at the free clinic. Brent put it on speaker. "Mr. Harmon," Dr. York's voice was professional but cautious. "I understand you want to meet. Tomorrow morning. Your office. I should warn you. There are limits to what I can discuss about former patients. Then we'll discuss what you can talk about." 8 a.m. After hanging up, Brent turned to Clay. "I want everything you can find on Dr. York, too. Anyone who knew about this and kept quiet is part of this." Ray spoke up from his desk. "Brent, I've been analyzing Richmond's project histories. There's a pattern here, too. Each major development follows a similar timeline. Personal connections made months in advance, then sudden breakthroughs in zoning or financing. Document everything," Brent ordered. "I want a paper trail for decision, connection, deal he's made." As the day wound down, Brent received another text from Jason. "Dad, we need to talk about the sustainable building proposal. I found an investor interested in partnering with us." Brent didn't need to ask who the investor was. "Conference room tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring the full proposal." Gilberto lingered after the others left. "The crews are asking questions. They're worried about job security with all this going on. Tell them to focus on their work. Nothing changes on the job sites." "And Richmond? Word is he's been courting some of our regular clients." "Let him try." Brent's voice carried deadly certainty. "By the time I'm done, no one in this city will do business with Owen Richmond." That night, alone in his office, Brent reviewed old project files. Each success, each milestone now felt tainted by the shadow of betrayal. But beneath the anger, a cold determination took hold. He had built his company from nothing once before. If necessary, he would do it again. But first, he would dismantle everything Owen Richmond had built through deception and manipulation. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We should talk. For the kid's sake. Owen." Brent deleted the message without responding. The time for talks had passed. Now was the time for action. Chapter 5. Webs of Connection. Clay Babcock's preliminary report landed on Brent's desk early Monday morning, its contents confirming his worst suspicions about Owen Richmond's business practices. The private investigator had mapped out a complex web of relationships and influence that spanned the city's construction and real estate sectors. "Mr. Harmon," Clay began, pointing to a diagram, "Richmond's pattern is consistent. He identifies key players in the industry, finds their vulnerabilities, and exploits them through personal connections." "Show me the details," Brent demanded. "Take the Riverside Development Project." Clay pulled out several photographs. Richmond needed zoning changes. Suddenly, he's playing golf with the zoning board chairman's wife. 3 months later, variances approved. The office door opened as Sonia Brock entered, her presence unexpected but not unwelcome. Brent hadn't seen Melody's old friend since before the DNA test revelation. "I need to tell you something," Sonia announced without preamble. "About Owen Richmond." Brent gestured for Clay to stay. "Talk. He tried to reconnect with me 5 years ago," Sonia began, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "My husband Mark was up for regional manager at First National. Owen showed up at a bank function, charming everyone. Started asking about old times, suggesting lunch to catch up. What happened? I shut him down. Told him I was happily married. 2 weeks later, Mark's promotion went to someone else. Found out later Owen had connections on the bank's board. Clay made notes while Brent processed this information. Did Melody know about this? I tried to tell her. Sonia's voice cracked slightly. She defended him, said he changed. That's when I started pulling away from our friendship. I couldn't watch her lie to you anymore. A knock on the door interrupted them. Ray entered with fresh financial records. Brent, you need to see this. Kenny Richards' company. Their sudden success wasn't just from underbidding us. They've been getting insider information about our bids. Prove it. Ray spread out a timeline of projects. Look at the pattern. Each time we bid on a major project, Richards comes in just under our number. Not enough to raise suspicions, but consistent. Someone's been feeding him our data. The money Melody was sending, Brent connected the dots. It wasn't just for Richmond's recovery. No, Ray confirmed grimly. Some of those transfers aligned perfectly with bid submissions. She had access to the books through the joint accounts. Clay cleared his throat. There's more. Kenny Richards and Owen Richmond go way back. They were classmates at State, same business program. Richards' construction company started growing right around the time Richmond got into real estate development. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture of calculated deception that spanned decades. Brent's phone buzzed, a text from Jason, meeting with a potential investor about sustainable building. Think you'll want to hear this proposal. Your son's being groomed, Clay observed. Richmond's trying to pull him into his operation. Not happening. Brent's voice carried lethal certainty. Sonia spoke up again. There's something else you should know. Owen didn't just disappear after the boating accident. He spent time in a private rehab facility, one where Dr. York worked. The same Dr. York who works with Melody at the free clinic? The same. He specialized in treating high-profile patients who needed discretion. Owen was one of his success stories. A new voice joined the conversation, Gilberto, entering with his own stack of documents. Boss, our suppliers are talking. Someone's been asking questions about our material costs, delivery schedules, everything. Richmond's building a complete picture of our operation, Ray concluded. No, Brent corrected. He's been building it for years. Through Melody, through Kenny Richards, through anyone he could manipulate. Clay's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked up with raised eyebrows. Just got an interesting tip. Richmond's hosting a business dinner tonight at La Maison. Guest list includes several city council members and Kenny Richards. Time to pay them a visit, Brent decided. You sure that's wise? Ray cautioned. Sometimes you have to look a man in the eye to understand what you're dealing with. The restaurant was upscale, the kind of place where deals were made over expensive wine and carefully worded conversations. Brent walked in wearing his work clothes, a deliberate choice that drew stares from the suited diners. Owen Richmond sat at a corner table with Kenny Richards and two men Brent recognized from the city council. The real estate developer's expensive suit and carefully maintained appearance couldn't hide the predatory calculation in his eyes. Brent, Owen greeted smoothly. What an unexpected pleasure. Save it. Brent's voice carried across the quiet restaurant. We're going to talk. Now. Kenny Richards started to stand, but Owen waved him back down. Of course. Perhaps somewhere more private. They moved to the restaurant's bar area, now empty except for a discreet bartender who made himself scarce at Owen's gesture. I assume this is about Jason, Owen began. He shows real promise in development work. Stay away from my son. Your son? Owen's smile held no warmth. Biologically speaking. Brent's hand shot out, gripping Owen's expensive tie. Biology didn't put him through college. Biology didn't teach him about business. Biology didn't spend 25 years building something for him to inherit. Building something? Owen's composure cracked slightly. You built your success on contracts that should have gone to better qualified companies. Ask Kenny about the projects he lost because you undercut him. Better qualified? Brent's laugh held no humor. Kenny's been underbidding with insider information. Wonder where he got that? A flicker of uncertainty crossed Owen's face. You can't prove anything. Watch me. The confrontation was interrupted by Kenny Richards approaching their table. Everything okay here? Mr. Richards, Brent turned to face him. Tell me, How many of our bid numbers did Richmond feed you over the years? Kenny's face reddened. You're crossing a line, Harmon. No. Brent's voice dropped dangerously low. You crossed the line when you decided to profit from my wife's betrayal. What none of them noticed was Gilberto seated at a corner table, his phone recording the entire conversation. Outside, Ray Shepard sat in his car, documenting everyone who entered or left the restaurant. The foundation of Owen Richmond's carefully constructed empire was about to face its first serious stress test, and Brent Harmon, master builder turned destroyer, intended to exploit structural weakness until the whole thing came crashing down. Chapter 6. Strategic Moves. The morning after the restaurant confrontation, Brent sat in the familiar booth at Mike's Diner where he'd first met Melody. The coffee tasted the same, but everything else had changed. The place served as neutral ground for a meeting he'd been avoiding. Owen Richmond arrived precisely on time, Kenny Richards trailing behind him like an expensive shadow. They slid into the booth across from Brent, their tailored suits incongruous in the working-class establishment. Ordered you both coffee, Brent said without preamble. Black, like your souls. Charming as ever, Owen replied smoothly. Shall we discuss business like civilized men? Nothing civilized about what you've done. Kenny shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Look, Harmon, this doesn't have to get ugly. We're all businessmen here. Businessmen? Brent's voice could have frozen hell. Is that what you call using my wife to steal contract information? Is that what you call manipulating my son? Owen's facade cracked slightly. I've paid for my mistakes. 20 years of sobriety, building a legitimate business. Legitimate? Brent cut him off. Tell me about the Riverside development zoning changes. Tell me about Mark Brock's promotion at First National. Tell me about all the wives and secrets you've collected over the years. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Owen's face. You've been doing your homework. While you were building your empire on lies and manipulation, I was building mine on sweat and honest work. Guess which foundation's stronger? Kenny leaned forward, his voice low. Be reasonable, Harmon. You've lost contracts to us because we're more efficient, more innovative, more informed, Brent corrected. Amazing how you always knew exactly where to set your bids. Just under our numbers, just enough to win contracts without raising suspicions. Owen raised an eyebrow. Accusations without proof are dangerous, Brent, especially when they involve respected business leaders. Respected? Brent's laugh held no humor. Let's talk about respect. Let's talk about how you used Melody to spy on my business while playing dead. Let's talk about how you're trying to manipulate my son with promises of sustainable development opportunities. Jason came to me, Owen countered. He has vision, sees opportunities you're too set in your ways to recognize. The future is in green building, and he knows it. The future? Brent's voice dropped dangerously low. You don't get to talk about my son's future. You lost that right when you abandoned him before birth. Kenny tried to intervene. This is getting us nowhere. We should focus on finding a mutually beneficial. Shut up, Kenny, Brent and Owen said simultaneously. The diner's other patrons had gone quiet, sensing the tension radiating from the booth. In the kitchen doorway, the cook watched nervously, phone in hand, ready to call for help if needed. Here's what's going to happen, Brent stated, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable threat. You're going to stay away from my children. You're going to stop using insider information to undercut my bids. And you're going to find a new city to corrupt with your schemes. Owen's composure slipped further. Or what? You'll expose me? Drag your own family's name through the mud? Think about what that would do to Jason and Jennifer's futures. I'm thinking about their futures. That's why I'm giving you this one chance to back off. You're bluffing, Kenny interjected. You've got nothing concrete. Brent pulled out his phone, playing a recording from the previous night's restaurant confrontation. Owen's face paled slightly as his own voice admitted to using connections for business advantage. That's just the beginning, Brent continued. My PI has been very thorough. Amazing what people will reveal about a man once they stop fearing him. You wouldn't. Owen's voice held a note of uncertainty. It would hurt Melody too. Melody made her choices. Now she can live with the consequences. In the parking lot outside, Gilberto sat in his truck, recording this conversation too. Ray watched from across the street, documenting anyone entering or leaving the diner. The trap was set, and Owen Richmond had walked right into it. 1 week, Brent stated, standing up. That's how long you have to start dismantling whatever schemes you're running. After that, everything I have goes to the relevant authorities. You're making a mistake, Owen warned. I have friends in high places. So do I, Brent countered. Difference is, mine aren't bought and paid for. As he turned to leave, Kenny called after him. What about the Sustainable Development Project? Jason's worked hard on that proposal. Brent paused. My son can present his ideas to me directly. Without your toxic influence. Outside, the morning sun highlighted the contrast between Brent's work clothes and the expensive suits of his adversaries. He nodded to Gilberto, who held up his phone to confirm the recording. Ray approached from his observation point. Got photos of everyone who came and went, including 2 city council members who showed up but didn't come in once they saw your truck. Good, Brent replied. Time to start applying pressure. The next few days would prove crucial in his plan to dismantle Owen Richmond's influence. But first, he needed to deal with an equally important matter: his son's misplaced loyalty to a man who saw him as nothing more than a tool for revenge. As he drove back to the office, Brent's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Dad, Jason's planning something. He's meeting with Richmond's lawyers tomorrow. The message confirmed what Brent already suspected. The battle for his family's future would be fought on multiple fronts, and he couldn't afford to show weakness on any of them. In his office, Clay Babcock waited with fresh intelligence. Got something you need to see. Records of payments from Richmond's shell companies to Kenny Richards' suppliers. They've been artificially inflating their costs to justify higher bids. Document everything, Brent ordered. Transaction, connection. When we move, I want it to be decisive. The wheels were in motion. Owen Richmond had built his empire on secrets and manipulation, but Brent had learned long ago that the strongest structures were those built on solid foundations. The coming days would prove which man's legacy would stand and which would crumble under pressure. Chapter 7. Calculated Response. Brent sat behind his desk, surrounded by the evidence Clay Babcock had gathered. The private investigator's work had exposed the rotten core of Owen Richmond's real estate empire, a foundation built on manipulation, corruption, and betrayal. These environmental reports are damning. Clay pointed to several highlighted sections. Richmond's developments have violated at least 6 major regulations. He's been bribing inspectors to look the other way. Show me the money trail, Brent demanded. Clay spread out bank statements and transaction records. Shell companies, all leading back to Richmond's organization. He's been using them to hide payments to officials and cover up violations. A knock at the door interrupted them. Derek Dyer, Brent's former client from the state's real estate commission, entered with a thick folder under his arm. Got something you need to see, Derek announced. The commission's implementing new environmental impact regulations next month. Richmond's current projects won't pass the updated standards. Brent leaned forward. How many projects? 5 major developments, including the Riverside complex. He's already pre-sold units in 3 of them. What happens if they fail inspection? Construction stops immediately. Buyers can demand refunds. Banks can call in loans. A predatory gleam appeared in Brent's eyes. When do these regulations take effect? 30 days after publication. But here's the thing. Richmond doesn't know about them yet. The commission's keeping it quiet until the formal announcement. Clay whistled low. That's a lot of exposed positions. If he can't complete those projects, his whole house of cards comes down, Brent finished. The office phone buzzed. Mr. Harmon? Dr. York is here to see you. Send him in. Dr. Gordon York entered, carrying a manila envelope. His professional demeanor couldn't hide his discomfort. What I'm about to share violates no confidentiality agreements, he began carefully. These are redacted records showing patterns of behavior during Richmond's rehabilitation. No names, no specific details. Brent took the envelope. Why now? Because I've seen this pattern before. He uses people, manipulates them under the guise of recovery and redemption. What he did to Melody. Dr. York paused. It wasn't the first time. Tell me. He identifies vulnerabilities, people's needs, their insecurities. In recovery, we encourage patients to make amends. Richmond twisted that concept, using it to reestablish connections he could exploit later. Clay took notes while Dr. York spoke. This matches what we've found in his business dealings. I should have seen it sooner, Dr. York admitted. The way he maintained contact with Melody, how he positioned himself at the free clinic. The clinic? Brent's voice sharpened. He's one of our major donors. Started contributing after Melody began working there. I thought he was making genuine amends. No, Brent growled. He was maintaining control, keeping tabs on my family through you and the clinic. Ray Shepard entered, adding another layer to the gathering storm. Just got off the phone with my contact at the zoning board. Richmond's trying to fast-track approvals for his projects before the end of the month. He knows something's coming, Clay observed. Let him rush, Brent said. The faster he moves, the more mistakes he'll make. Derek spoke up. I can ensure his applications get the strictest possible review. No corners cut, no exceptions made. Do it, Brent ordered. Clay, get those environmental violations to the relevant authorities. Dr. York, I want everything you can legally share about Richmond's pattern of manipulation. What about the press? Ray asked. Not yet. First, we build the case. When we move, it'll be all at once. No warning, no chance for him to slip away again. Another knock, Gilberto this time. Boss, Jason's here. Says he needs to talk to you about Richmond's latest offer. Send him in. Brent turned to the others. We're done for now. Keep me updated on everything. As the men filed out, Jason entered. The boy looked torn between defiance and uncertainty. Richmond offered me a position, he started. Head of Sustainable Development for his new projects. After what you know about him, he says he wants to make things right. That he's changed. The position comes with equity in the company. Tell me something. Brent cut him off. These sustainable projects, have you seen the environmental impact reports? He showed me the preliminary assessments. The real ones. Brent pushed the files Clay had brought across the desk. The ones his inspectors buried. Jason's face fell as he read. This can't be right. He promised these developments would be green certified. He promises a lot of things. Ask your mother about his promises. The boy's hands shook slightly as he closed the file. What are you going to do? What I've always done. Build something that lasts. The question is, are you going to help me tear down his house of lies, or let him use you like he used everyone else? Before Jason could answer, Brent's phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Dad, you need to know something. Mom's at the clinic, talking to Dr. York. She looks scared. Brent showed the message to Jason. Still think Richmond's changed? The war was about to begin in earnest. Brent had spent his life building things to last. Now he would use that same expertise to systematically dismantle Owen Richmond's corrupt empire. I want in, Jason said finally. Tell me how I can help. First, we need to understand his whole operation. Project, connection, weakness. Clay stuck his head back in. Just got word, Richmond's meeting with his investors tonight. Trying to secure additional funding for those rush projects. Perfect timing, Brent smiled grimly. Let's show those investors what they're really buying into. Chapter 8, Justice Served. The conference room at Harmon Construction had become a command center. Maps, documents, and photographs covered the walls, a detailed dissection of Owen Richmond's business empire. Clay Babcock stood before the assembled group, laying out their strategy. Environmental groups are ready to move, he reported. Leah Lawrence's organization has the documentation they need. Jason, sitting next to Jennifer, spoke up. Leah says they've been tracking Richmond's violations for months. They just needed proof of the cover-ups, which we now have, Ray added, gesturing to the financial records. The shell companies, the bribes, all of it. Brent studied the evidence wall. Start with the Riverside development. That's his flagship project. Already in motion, Clay confirmed. Anonymous tips went out to 3 local news outlets this morning. They're particularly interested in the contaminated soil tests he buried. The door opened and Kenny Richards slipped in, looking nervous. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his face haggard. They're watching me, he blurted. Richmond's people. They know I've been talking to regulators, Tell them what you told the commission, Brent commanded. Kinney swallowed hard. Richmond's been using insider information for years. Not just from Melody, from dozens of sources. Wives, girlfriends, anyone he could compromise. He had me adjust bids based on the information, just enough to win contracts without raising suspicions. And now, his investors are getting nervous. The rushed approvals, the environmental concerns. They're asking questions I can't answer. Clay's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked up with satisfaction. First story just broke. Prestigious developer linked to environmental cover-ups. It's hitting all the local news sites. Send it to everyone who's invested in his projects, Brent ordered. Let them see what they're risking. Jennifer's laptop chimed with an email alert. Leah's group is organizing protests at all his development sites. They're demanding immediate environmental impact studies. Dad, Jason called from his computer. Richmond's trying to counter the story. His PR team is claiming business rivals are spreading false information. Let him dig himself deeper, Brent replied. Clay, release the next batch of evidence. The private investigator nodded, making calls. Within hours, news stories began breaking. Developers' web of influence. Manipulation and corruption exposed, followed by state regulators launch investigation into Richmond developments. Kinney's phone rang. His face paled as he checked the caller ID. It's Richmond. Put it on speaker, Brent commanded. Kinney. Owen's voice filled the room, tight with controlled fury. Why are state regulators asking about our bid histories? I don't know what you mean, Kinney stammered. Don't play dumb. They're looking at projects going back 5 years. Projects we won by very specific margins. Maybe they're doing a routine audit. There's nothing routine about this. Fix it, or I'll remind you who really owns your company's success. The call ended. Kinney slumped in his chair. He'll destroy me. No, Brent corrected. He's already destroyed himself. He just doesn't know it yet. Ray entered with fresh reports. Richmond's stock is dropping. The environmental scandal is spooking investors. Time to turn up the pressure, Brent decided. Jennifer, contact your mother. Tell her Richmond's starting to crack. She needs to decide which side of history she wants to be on. What if she refuses? Jennifer asked quietly. Then she goes down with him. Her choice. Clay's phone buzzed again. Richmond's calling an emergency board meeting. Trying to shore up confidence before the market opens tomorrow. He's running scared, Jason observed. Good. Brent's voice held no mercy. Fear makes people sloppy. Makes them reveal things they've kept hidden. The next hours brought a cascade of revelations. More victims of Richmond's manipulation came forward, each story adding weight to the growing scandal. Kinney Richards' testimony to state regulators opened floodgates of information about corrupt bidding practices. Then came the text from Melody. Owen asked me to lie about our relationship timeline. To protect his reputation. I refused. She's ready to talk, Jennifer announced, showing Brent the message. Get her to my lawyer, he ordered. Full deposition. Everything she knows about his schemes. As night fell, the news channels ran continuous coverage of the Richmond scandal. Protesters gathered at his development sites. Investors demanded emergency meetings. Government agencies launched investigations. Look at this, Clay called out, pointing to his laptop. Richmond's trying to transfer assets offshore. Started moving money an hour ago. Too late, Ray smiled grimly. Accounts are already flagged. He's not going anywhere. Brent stood at the evidence wall, studying the empire he was systematically destroying. 25 years of rage and betrayal had been channeled into a strike, each blow calculated to inflict maximum damage. Dad, Jason approached carefully. Leah says Richmond's people are trying to buy off environmental groups, offering donations, promising changes. Desperate moves, Brent dismissed. How's the sustainable building proposal coming? Almost ready. But after seeing all this, Jason gestured at the evidence. I understand now why you wanted me to learn the right way to build something. A knock interrupted them. Gilberto entered with more news. Boss, Richmond's board just called an emergency session. Word is they're discussing a leadership change. They're cutting him loose, Ray translated. trying to save what they can of the company. Brent's phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You've won. Name your price." Owen. He deleted the message without responding. There would be no deals, no compromises, no mercy. Owen Richmond would learn what happened to those who betrayed Brent Harmon's trust. Chapter 9. Redemption and Renewal. The fallout came swiftly and without mercy. Owen Richmond's real estate empire, built on decades of manipulation and deceit, crumbled under the weight of multiple investigations. The man himself faced criminal charges for environmental violations, corruption, and fraud. In Brent's office, Ray delivered the final tally. Richmond Development stock is worthless. The banks have called in their loans. 5 major projects are suspended indefinitely. Kenny Richards? Brent asked. Plea deal with prosecutors. His testimony buried Richmond even deeper. Clay Babcock added his report. Richmond's personal assets are frozen. His offshore accounts have been flagged. He's not even fighting anymore. His lawyers are negotiating surrender terms. The door opened and Melody entered, looking older than her years. "I've given my statement to the prosecutors. Everything. The money, the lies, all of it." "Sit down," Brent commanded. Despite everything, his voice held no emotion. "Why now?" "Because I finally saw him clearly. When he asked me to lie about our past, I realized he never changed. He just got better at hiding who he really was. 25 years too late for that revelation." "I know." She placed divorce papers on his desk. "I'm not asking for anything. Just forgiveness for the children's sake." Brent studied the documents. "Where will you go?" "Dr. York helped me find a position at a hospital in Colorado." "Fresh start. Good. Distance is better for everyone." The twins arrived as Melody was leaving. Jennifer hugged her mother briefly, while Jason managed a stiff nod. "The free clinic board met this morning," Jennifer reported once Melody was gone. "They're reorganizing, starting fresh without Richmond's influence." "And your medical studies?" "Back on track. This whole thing, it showed me why accessible healthcare matters. People like Richmond prey on desperation." Jason stepped forward with his own update. "Leah's environmental group wants to partner with us on sustainable building projects. Real ones this time, not Richmond's greenwashed schemes." "Show me the proposal." While Jason laid out his plans, Gilberto entered with Maria. They carried coffee and sandwiches, a reminder of the human touches that had always distinguished Harmon Construction from Richmond's soulless developments. "The crews are asking about the future," Gilberto reported. "They're loyal to you, but they need stability." Brent had been considering this moment for weeks. "How do you feel about running the company?" "What? You've been here since the beginning. You know the business, know the people. The company needs someone who understands its foundation." "Boss, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. I'll keep a small stake, act as consultant when needed. But it's time for new leadership." Ray spoke up from his corner. "Financially, it makes sense. Gilberto knows operations. I'll handle the books." Perfect transition. "What about you, Dad?" Jennifer asked. "What will you do?" "Something I haven't done in years. Build things with my own hands. High-end renovations, specialty projects. Work I choose, not work I have to take." The decision felt right, like watching a building's pieces come together according to a well-drafted plan. Months passed. Owen Richmond pleaded guilty to multiple charges, his empire dismantled, his reputation destroyed. Kenny Richards' construction company was sold off in pieces. The industry rebuilt itself on cleaner foundations. At Jennifer's medical school graduation, Brent watched with quiet pride as his daughter received her degree. Later, during the celebration, Jason made his own announcement. "Leah and I are engaged," he revealed, arm around the environmental activist who had helped expose Richmond's crimes. "We're combining her green building standards with Harmon Construction's expertise." Brent nodded approval. His children had found their paths, not through inheritance or manipulation, but through their own choices and hard work. In his new workshop, Brent found peace in working with his hands again. The space became a gathering place for family and friends. Gilberto's children learned basic carpentry there. Even Jennifer's medical students sometimes visited, learning how a builder's precision could inform a surgeon's technique. The walls held photos of projects spanning decades, tangible proof that lasting success came from solid foundations and honest work. Owen Richmond had built his empire on lies and manipulation, and it had fallen accordingly. Brent's legacy, built on sturdier principles, would endure. One day, as he taught Gilberto's son how to join wood properly, Brent reflected on the difference between destruction and dismantling. Richmond's fall hadn't been about revenge. It had been about exposing rot and rebuilding stronger. His own life had followed the same principle, removing damaged parts and reinforcing what remained. Like this, Uncle Brent? Gilberto's boy asked, showing his woodwork joint. Check your angles, Brent instructed. A joint's only as strong as its precision. The workshop had become his sanctuary, filled with the honest scent of sawdust and varnish. Here, he could focus on creating rather than destroying, though he never regretted taking down Richmond's corrupt empire. Jennifer visited often, sometimes bringing her medical colleagues to learn about precision tools and steady hands. Dad's workshop taught me more about surgical technique than some of my professors, she'd tell them. Jason and Leah made the space their planning center, spreading sustainable building designs across his workbenches. Their marriage had united environmental consciousness with construction expertise, creating something new and valuable. Gilberto ran Harmon Construction with the same principles that had built it: quality work, fair prices, and respect for both clients and workers. The company's reputation grew stronger, unburdened by the shadow of Richmond's schemes. Ray stayed on as financial advisor, ensuring the company's books remained transparent and honest. He took particular pride in teaching young accountants the difference between creative bookkeeping and criminal deception. The community's respect for Brent grew not from his takedown of Richmond, but from how he'd done it through legitimate means, exposing truth rather than creating lies. Other builders sought his advice, knowing he'd earned his wisdom through decades of honest work. Melody remained in Colorado, maintaining minimal contact except regarding the children. Brent never softened toward her betrayal, but he didn't actively pursue further retribution. Her absence was punishment enough. Dr. York transformed the free clinic, using lessons learned from the Richmond scandal to create stricter oversight of donations and influences. He and Brent developed a grudging respect, acknowledging that both had been deceived by those they trusted. The walls of Brent's workshop became a testament to 3 generations of builders. Photos of his early projects hung alongside pictures of Gilberto's crew at work and Jason's sustainable developments. Each image told a story of creation rather than destruction. A man builds his legacy day by day, he told his grandchildren when they visited the workshop. Each choice, each action, each principle you uphold becomes part of your foundation. The lesson of Owen Richmond's fall served as a warning to others in the industry. Success built on manipulation and deceit might rise quickly, but it wouldn't stand the test of time. True strength came from solid foundations, honest work, and uncompromising integrity. Brent's new life, focused on craft rather than commerce, brought him a satisfaction he hadn't known he was missing. His high-end renovation projects allowed him to work at his own pace, choosing clients who valued quality over speed. In the end, his revenge against Richmond had also been his redemption, a return to the core principles his Uncle Stephen had taught him. Build things right. Stand behind your work. Never compromise on quality. The community recognized this transformation. They saw a man who had faced betrayal not by becoming bitter, but by becoming better. His workshop became a place where young people learned not just about building things, but about building character. As he watched his family grow, Jennifer's medical practice thriving, Jason and Leah's sustainable projects succeeding, Gilberto's children learning the trade, Brent knew he'd built something more valuable than Richmond had ever imagined. He'd built a legacy of integrity that would outlast any physical structure. The final photo added to his workshop wall showed 3 generations at Jennifer's medical school graduation: Brent, his children, and Gilberto's family, all united not by blood but by choice and shared values. It stood as proof that the strongest bonds aren't inherited or imposed, but built through trust, respect, and unwavering principles. In the end, Brent's story became not just about the fall of a corrupt man, but about the rise of something stronger in its place. He had taken the broken pieces of betrayal and built something lasting, a testament to the truth that the most important things in life are constructed with dedication, integrity, and love. Epilogue: Foundation's legacy, 10 years later. The morning sun glinted off the polished brass plaque outside Harmon Construction's new headquarters. Building Tomorrow, founded on tradition, EST 1996. The modern building, with its green certification proudly displayed, stood as a testament to how far the company had come since the Richmond scandal a decade ago. Inside his private workshop behind his home, Brent Harmon, now approaching 60, worked on an intricate piece of custom cabinetry. His hands, though marked by additional years of craftsmanship, remained steady and precise. The workshop had expanded over the years, now featuring both traditional tools and state-of-the-art equipment for specialized projects. "Grandpa, can I help?" 8-year-old Stephen, named after Brent's uncle, stood in the doorway. He was Jason and Leah's eldest, already showing an aptitude for building things. "Come here," Brent beckoned. "Let me show you how to measure twice, cut once." The workshop walls now displayed even more history, photos of completed projects, family milestones, and newspaper clippings. One headline stood out: "Richmond denied parole. Former developer remains behind bars." The article, dated 2 years ago, detailed how Owen Richmond's attempt at early release had been rejected due to lack of remorse and attempted financial manipulation within the prison system. "Dad," Jennifer's voice called from outside. "The family's starting to arrive." Today marked the 10th anniversary of Richmond's conviction, though the family celebrated it as the day Harmon Construction began its transformation. The company, under Gilberto's leadership, had grown into one of the region's most respected construction firms, known for combining traditional quality with innovative sustainable practices. Brent wiped his hands on his work apron. "Coming, Stephen. Put the tools back where they belong." The backyard had been transformed over the years. A large pavilion, built by Brent himself, hosted family gatherings. Today, tables were set up for a celebration that would bring together everyone who had played a part in the company's journey. Gilberto and Maria arrived first, their children now teenagers. Their eldest son had just started an apprenticeship at Harmon Construction, learning the trade from the ground up, just as his father had. "The Wilson project's ahead of schedule," Gilberto reported, helping set up chairs. "Those new sustainable materials Jason recommended are working better than expected." Ray Shepard arrived next, semi-retired but still serving as a financial consultant. He'd written a book about identifying and preventing corporate fraud, using the Richmond case as a primary example without naming names. The business school's using it as a textbook, he told Brent proudly, teaching the next generation how to spot wolves in sheep's clothing. Jennifer pulled up in her Tesla, now a respected surgeon known for bringing medical care to underserved communities. The free clinic where her mother once worked had become part of her broader healthcare initiative, though she'd ensured it remained free from any potentially corrupting influences. "Dr. York sends his regards," she mentioned, hugging her father. "He's presenting at a rehabilitation conference, teaching other doctors how to identify manipulation in recovery patients." Jason and Leah arrived with their 3 children. Their sustainable construction consulting firm, operating as a subsidiary of Harmon Construction, had revolutionized green building practices in the region. They'd just won a major contract to retrofit government buildings with environmental upgrades. The environmental impact reports came back on the Riverside Reclamation Project, Leah shared. "The area's finally testing clean after all these years." The Riverside development, Richmond's failed flagship project, had been acquired by Harmon Construction and transformed into a model of sustainable urban renewal. The contaminated soil had been remediated, and the development now featured affordable housing with state-of-the-art energy efficiency. Clay Babcock, the private investigator who'd helped expose Richmond's crimes, made an appearance. He'd specialized in corporate fraud investigations, his reputation built on the Richmond case. "Just finished another case," he told Brent. "Amazing how many people still haven't learned that corruption always leaves a trail." Kenny Richards, who'd served minimal time due to his cooperation, had moved to another state after his release. His construction company had been dissolved, its assets acquired by various firms including Harmon Construction, which had retained some of the honest employees while implementing strict oversight. Sonia Brock arrived with her husband Mark, who had eventually become regional president of a different bank. They'd remained close friends with Brent, their own experience with Richmond's manipulation having strengthened rather than destroyed their relationship with the Harmon family. "Remember that diner where you and Melody met?" Sonia asked during dinner. "It's being renovated. The new owners want to preserve its history." Brent nodded, acknowledging the past without bitterness. Melody had remained in Colorado, remarrying 5 years ago. She maintained a distant but cordial relationship with her children, though Brent himself never spoke with her directly. Her portion of the settlement from Richmond's conviction had been donated to addiction recovery programs, a decision that had earned her a measure of respect if not forgiveness. As the evening progressed, Gilberto called for attention. "I've got an announcement. The board has approved our expansion into commercial sustainable renovation. Jason will head the new division, with Leah overseeing environmental compliance." The news was met with applause. The company had grown beyond anyone's expectations, but never at the expense of its core values. Each expansion, each new project was built on the same foundation of integrity that had sustained it through the Richmond crisis. "Dad," Jennifer said quietly during a lull in the celebration, "I heard something you should know. Richmond's been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He has maybe 6 months." Brent absorbed the news without visible reaction. "Karma builds its own structures," he replied simply. Later, as the family gathered around the fire pit Brent had built, stories flowed freely. The younger generation heard once again how their parents and grandparents had faced betrayal and corruption, emerging stronger through unity and principle. "The company's 20th anniversary is coming up," Gilberto mentioned. "We should do something special." "Already working on it," Brent revealed. "I'm designing a series of training workshops, teaching craftsmanship, business ethics, sustainable practices. Everything we've learned over the years." "The Harmon Legacy Program," Jason added, "combining Dad's traditional methods with modern techniques. We're partnering with trade schools and universities. The program would ensure that the lessons learned during the Richmond scandal wouldn't be forgotten. Future builders would learn not just how to construct buildings, but how to build their careers and lives on foundations of integrity." Stephen, sitting beside his grandfather, played with a small wooden boat Brent had helped him make. "Grandpa, tell me about your first construction project." As Brent began the story, he looked around at the family gathered there. Blood relation had proven less important than the bonds forged through shared values and experiences. His real legacy wasn't in the buildings he'd constructed, but in the principles he'd instilled in the next generation. The company's success had allowed Brent to be selective about his personal projects. He took on only the most challenging and interesting renovations, often working with historical properties that required both traditional craftsmanship and modern techniques. His reputation had grown to the point where clients waited months for his availability. "Remember when Richmond tried to buy his way out of prison?" Ray reminisced. "His old contacts wouldn't touch him. Nobody wanted to risk their reputation." The Richmond scandal had changed the local construction and real estate industries. Stricter oversight, environmental compliance, and ethical business practices had become standard. Companies learned that reputation and integrity were more valuable than quick profits. Jennifer's daughter Lisa, 14 and already interested in medicine, sat with her mother comparing surgical instruments to woodworking tools. The precision required in both fields had created an unexpected bridge between their interests. "Steady hands and attention to detail," Jennifer explained. "Dad taught me that long before medical school." As night fell, the younger children were put to bed in the main house while the adults remained around the fire. Brent's home had been expanded over the years to accommodate the growing family, each addition reflecting his commitment to quality and craftsmanship. To the next generation, Gilberto proposed a toast. "May they build on our foundation and reach even higher." The company's future looked secure. Harmon Construction had become synonymous with quality, innovation, and integrity. The sustainable building practices Jason and Leah had championed were now industry standards, while the traditional craftsmanship Brent had insisted upon set their work apart from competitors. Clay shared some news he'd recently discovered. Richmond's former associates haven't fared well. Most lost their positions after the scandal. Some tried to rebuild elsewhere, but their reputations followed them. The ripple effects of Richmond's fall had transformed the local business community. Companies strengthened their ethical oversight, and whistleblower protections were enhanced. The story became a cautionary tale taught in business schools. The new ethics training program at State University uses our case study, Ray mentioned. They've asked me to give guest lectures about financial oversight. The night grew late, and families began heading home. The younger generation had their own projects to manage, their own challenges to face. But they faced them with the benefit of hard-learned lessons about integrity, perseverance, and the importance of building on solid foundations. Alone in his workshop later that night, Brent ran his hands over the smooth wood of his latest project. The custom cabinet would become a family heirloom, carrying his craftsmanship into future generations. Like everything he built, it would stand as a testament to the value of doing things right. A text message lit up his phone, Jason sharing photos of their latest sustainable project's groundbreaking ceremony. The site had once been one of Richmond's failed developments. Now it would become affordable housing built to the highest environmental standards. The workshop walls held the story of a family's triumph over betrayal, of integrity prevailing over corruption. But more than that, they told the story of building something lasting. Not just structures of wood and steel, but legacies of principle and character that would endure for generations. Brent switched off the workshop lights, leaving his tools cleaned and properly stored as always. Tomorrow would bring new projects, new challenges, new opportunities to teach the next generation. The lessons of the past had built a foundation for the future, stronger and more enduring than any Richmond had managed to create through deception and manipulation. The night air carried the scent of sawdust and varnish as Brent walked back to his house. In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled, many of them illuminating buildings that bore the Harmon construction mark of quality. His revenge against Richmond had been complete, but his legacy would be measured not in what he destroyed, but in what he and his family had built in its place. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.